I'd like to call the meeting of the regular school committee for May 21st, 2018. We're here in Appleseeds, calling the meeting to order. If everyone can please stand and say the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, be quiet. So I know Isabel was sick, Wendy has some stuff going on, and Dean, I'm sure will be here at some point shortly. Okay, I'm going to read the Leominster School Committee statement. The committee represents the needs of all Leominster Public School students and places their interests above all others. We will exercise leadership, adhere to our protocols, and base our decision upon a reasoned assessment of all available information. We will advocate for each of our schools and support high-quality public education in Leominster. Okay, having said that, we're going to open up to our public forum. If anybody would like to address the committee, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Would anybody like to come and address the committee during our open forum? One last time, is anybody interested in addressing the school committee at our public forum? If not, we'll close that portion of the meeting and we'll move right on to communications superintendent. There are no communications this evening? Great, thank you. And then we'll move right on to the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming out tonight. I know this is a busy time of year, but I want to take this opportunity to update our community on recent and upcoming events. I first want to acknowledge that this evening our LHS band members and band parents are at the Fitchburg School Committee meeting tonight presenting a check to staff members who lost many of their belongings during a pipe that burst at Crocker Elementary School, and they're hoping to relieve some of the pressure and give back to their fellow colleagues, so it's very commendable. First, tonight I want to make sure that we readdress safety. Sadly, our nation continues to experience such horrific school tragedies. Leominster Public Schools continues to strive to create better systems of safety. Meetings and protocols are happening between all city departments on a daily basis. Resources are increasing within every school to strengthen not only the physical items, but enforcing better communication. As we move forward, we must insist on all stakeholders, if they see something, to say something. Technology is a key role in building safety. I must compliment our IT staff for their tireless efforts to not only rectify our system, but maintain our daily struggles with technology. During this phase, we have also been facilitating state testing and a massive infrastructure project. Staff has been working around the clock 7 days a week to enable students and staff capacity. Patience has been our strongest developing trait. Next, the school department continues to build a relationship with the city's human resource team. After meeting directly with the city's team, we recognize the need to supply detailed documents outlining our hiring procedures to avoid any misunderstandings. Monthly, the school department will provide the human resource report that is included in the school committee packet. And lastly, we want to acknowledge our senior graduation on June 2nd. The choices students have made about their futures is remarkable. We have students going to Harvard, Princeton, Syracuse, Rensselaer, multiple state universities, technical schools, and those who are joining the workforce. 478 students will cross the stage that morning, representing the best of Leominster, and we should all show our pride and faith in each and every one of them. Fingers crossed for beautiful weather for a great celebration. Thank you.
It's very impressive.
Thank you. Very impressive.
Congratulations to the class of 2018. That's awesome. All right, at this point we're going to move on to our CT presentation. Dave, if you would like to come on up with your colleagues.
evening, everyone. Thank you for having us here tonight. Tonight marks the first time that the General Advisory Committee has spoken with and met with the school committee, as far as I know, in all of the history of our school. And so it's kind of an important night for us. And the document that you have in front of you is just part of a 37-page document that is put out by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And this document covers the roles and responsibilities of the General Advisory Committee that we have at CTEI. So just to explain a little bit of what the General Advisory Committee is, we have 13 Chapter 74 programs, and each program has its own program advisory committee. So that the electrical shop has their advisory committee, the machine shop has their advisory committee, and so on. Each one of those committees elects a chairperson. The chairperson of all the committees together formulate the General Advisory Committee. We have two chair people from their respective programs here with us tonight, and they're going to say a few words shortly. So the General Advisory Committee, if we just turn to the second page of the, and we created two boxes. Actually, the second page is on the back of the first one, and it shows you all the different things that are covered in the booklet of 37 pages. And we're only just going to hit a couple tonight. So the two boxes that are outlined or circled on the first page, each school committee shall appoint a General Advisory Committee for all vocational technical education programs under its control. And the General Advisory Committee shall include, but not be limited to, chairpersons of the program advisory committees. Ever since I have arrived here at this school, that's what we've been doing. Just taking the chair people of each one of the program advisory committees to form our General Advisory Committee. The second box says that the General Advisory Committee shall meet at least twice per year, provided that one of the meetings is with the school committee. That's where we haven't been doing that. And this is what we want to begin tonight. And the third thing, if you turn to the last page, so what happens when the General Advisory Committee comes before the school committee? What do we do? And so DC provides this sample report of the General Advisory Committee to the school committee. And you can see the things that are outlined here. We will talk to you about the equipment that we have or that we don't have, the equipment that we need to make our programs better. We'll talk about our General Advisory Committee membership, and we'll also talk about public relations, because we're often called the best hidden gem in Leominster, and we want to get away from that. And I know you can help us do that. So basically that's the outline of why we're here. And tonight we're going to have two of our graduates who've gone out into the real world and made a very good living for themselves. We're going to let them talk to you and give you some of their ideas about what they think about our school. So the first is Richard Brough, a 1974 graduate of our carpentry program and a member of our Wall of Fame.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Richard Brough. I live on Dillon Street here in Leominster. I'm standing before you as the member chairman of the Carpentry Program General Advisory Committee. And as David said, this evening we are fulfilling an obligation to report to the community on a regular basis as the committee. As a graduate, I report taking my learned skills from what was the Leominster Trade High into the U.S. Coast Guard, expanding my knowledge base further with regards to building and construction, as well as leadership and law enforcement. Upon completion of that commitment, my family returned to Leominster. We settled in, while I continue, even to this day, to educate and expand my knowledge base. In the last 2 weeks, school, 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 work, work, work. Helping today's vocational students understand that while we are currently helping them plant the seeds of a productive fruitful employment history, it's their responsibility to continue on that mission as they proceed in life. The continually changing marketplace requires that they enhance their education and earning capacity. Changing needs and practices may be obtained on the job, but oftentimes opportunities are better found when sought out on their own, being prepared ahead of the curve, so to speak. Six-figure salaries is their real potential today. They can do that. I have progressed through my career as a business owner, carpenter, master carpenter, construction supervisor, and I like to think of myself as a general good guy. In the year 2013, an opportunity was afforded me in association with the Worcester Carpenters Union. Who would have thought, with these humble beginnings, here is what is now the Center for Technical Education Innovation, alumni would be leading a team of students from Worcester Polytech, New York University Polytechnic, and Ghent University out of Belgium, in collaboration, the three schools, for a worldwide competition on net zero energy houses. The main construction planning took place at each home country, us being we primarily worked out of Worcester. The projects were followed through in Datong, China, where final assembly and rigorous trials and evaluations were conducted over a 2-week period. Now, we may not have taken the overall championship, but the friendships, challenges, and the obstacles we had to overcome quickly during the competition can't be replaced at any institution. It was trial under fire, and it was pretty remarkable to work with that many young people that had to be fast on their feet. All of this leads me to my point for the committee this evening. Our students here in Leominster are counting on us to prepare and provide them with similar opportunity. They do not just need laptops and books. Vocational education requires raw materials as well. Wood, steel, auto parts, piping, etc. for all different trades. The early stages are a critical formative time. Most often, workplace opportunities have a basic knowledge requirement. Our responsibility is to provide and fund that resource for them. Every one of our youth deserve the opportunity for maximizing their individual potential. My vocation was the only clear plan I had in my mind as a youth. You can be the judge of where that's taken me. Thank you for hearing my message, and please remember, vocational education requires those raw materials. It's not just the books and the laptops. These kids require something additional too. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Very impressive. We appreciate you being part of and giving back to our community. So thank you.
My name is Richard Pierce. I'm a 1995 graduate from the CTEI program here in electronics. I'd like to take the time, first of all, to thank all of you. Your dedication to Leominster is much appreciated. Thank you very much. Now, like myself, like most freshmen coming into the program in the high school, I had no idea of who I wanted to be, what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. I entered the CTE and joined the exploratory program, and by the time I was done with that, I had 4 things. I had a hard time choosing what I wanted to do. It was a great opportunity for me. I did choose electronics. When I graduated from the school, I not only left here with a trade in electronics, but I left here with leadership through Vicar at the time. Now it's known as Skills, and community involvement. These teachers and administration really pushed us to get involved in food drives and all that stuff. Not only just vocational, but they taught us to get into all that other stuff. That's some traits I probably wouldn't have today if it wasn't for that. I can honestly tell you that enrolling in CTEI was one of the best decisions year to date that I've ever made. Besides getting married, having kids, and all the general stuff. Make sure I throw that in there. Oh, yeah, I gotta go
Just in case
home.
your wife is
I gotta
listening.
go home. So I gotta tell you, like 3 days after graduating from this great program, I was employed with Verizon Communications. At the time it was 9X. I've been there 23 years later. I'm still there. I hold one of the top union positions in the company to this date. About 6 years ago, actually, when I got hired there, the lady that hired me was overly impressed with my resume and the portfolio I put in front of her with electronics and the student leadership projects. I was hired 3 days after she wanted to hire me, but I was still in school, so I had to wait another week before I could get going. She wanted to offer me the job right away. About 6 years ago, I got a little bored. I started another company, Red Carpet Disposal and Services, based out of Leominster. Heavily involved in a lot of projects, funding baseball fields, soccer fields. You'll see my name all over the place. The reason why I bring that up is that company, I'm heavily involved in trades on a day-to-day basis, from carpentry to plumbing to masonry, house projects. Every one of the business people I'm associated with, they can't tell me the shortages that they have in the vocational fields. They can't find the labor, and kids graduating from these programs have the opportunity to leave here $50,000 or $100,000 day one, zero debt. It's a huge, huge thing.
Too late for a career change?
I can honestly tell you, everyone I know that are in the trades are doing very, very well. I just talked to an electrician today, tell him about my son that's now in the program here at plumbing, and he says, you know, by the time he's out, he'll be making $100, $200 an hour, you know, as he goes up the steps. It's real. There's a lot of demand out there for this stuff, and I think we need to be on the forefront of all that. That's pretty much it. I'd like to thank you for your time again, and thank you for hearing our stories. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you. I mean, it does mean a lot to see the successes that our former students have, you know, been able to achieve, and then to be able to give back is admirable. So thank you both.
No, just have a couple of questions, and I don't know which one of you want to address it. Maybe not really understanding what you as an advisory member does in meeting with the shop that you're assigned to, other than, you know, from what you said on making sure that we have the type of equipment we need in our shop, the type of you know, raw materials we need in our shops. But do you do anything with the kids who are going out on co-op, like, I guess, meeting with the companies that are offering co-op positions, meeting with them to see if the kids that we're sending out in co-op positions are being adequately taught here in school to know what they need to know to go on a job? Do you do something like that, or is that not part of what the advisory program is about?
I will answer a portion of that and say to you that guys in the trades, we're coffee shop people, okay? And who do we see in the coffee shops? We see all the other guys in the trades, and we see the guys that are hiring co-op kids, that are trying to bring them in. They're looking for good workers. They're like everybody else. Do you know any kids out there? So there's a word of mouth element there. And as far as our role as an advisory member, teachers teach. We're out there every day. So when we come to these meetings, and we do, I can't speak for anyone but myself, but if I hit one of those days where I have time, I'm likely to call up Dave or call up the carpentry instructors and ask them, where are they today? Whether they're down at the emergency management offices working, the Spanish Center, you never know where they're going to be, which is why you have to call and see where they are. And you just drop in, see what they're doing. And the best thing I can say to you about that is when you show up at them places, you can have some real-time interaction with the kids in the sense of they want to hear what you have to say because they want to get where you are. And as far as being in the shop, we have state-of-the-art things on job sites that the instructors don't even always know about. And that's our responsibility, is to say, you know, there's funding available out there, but you need to put a proposal together. If you want to get a grant, first you have to have something that you would like to get a grant for. And that's our responsibility to say, geez, you want to be thinking about these things. And some of them are very expensive, but it's no different than getting that CNC machine into the machine shop.
I just want to know that we're keeping up, that CTEI is keeping up with Monty Tech, Assabet, in what we're sending kids out on with the knowledge they need to have to work in those companies. I mean, I've heard, you know, on that, you know, maybe they're not learning about how to do something with pipe, or, you know, that maybe Monty Tech is teaching a little better. I just would like to know that we're keeping up with that, and yes, exactly, and whether that falls on the co-op administrator, or is that something that advisors need to come back and say, you know, at the coffee shop I heard that, you know, we need to improve upon this a little bit, or, you know.
The biggest thing we need to improve on is helping them keep their phones put away.
I know.
I think when we look at what's going on in the workplace, and I think you're going to hear this even from the governor of Massachusetts, who's broadcasting the vocational education, the demand is going up and up and up and up. And like a lot of other things, funding is going down and down and down with a lot of different things. But when we see the field out there going up and up and up, we got to kind of adapt to it. And we got to fund these programs. We do meet, like plumbing will meet. We go over specific needs for each trade, electrical, carpentry. Plumbing recently needed a new piece of equipment. It wasn't in the budget. I ended up donating it to the budget. So we'll meet, we'll find the needs. We bring it back to real life people. Like I know some plumbers out in the field. We were talking about a co-op opportunity before we came in here. So we try to line stuff up like that through our connections. Very, very effective. Like he had said earlier, we're supposed to meet 2 times a year. Our board meets 4 or 5 times a year because we got people saying, if you need us, we're here. It's a great thing. So,
Good, thank you.
you're welcome.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Okay, so we have one last thing.
Sure.
So because this is the first time, we're doing this year, and it's in May. And now budgets have been set and everything has been done. And how much better it would be that we would be able to talk to all of you maybe like in March or February when we're building our budgets. And then we can come before you and say, you know, our most striking need is thus and so. And so we hope that maybe next year that will be the case.
That would be wonderful, because that certainly helps us plan better.
Yes.
And it's important for us to hear what the needs are in order for us to, you know, figure out a way to meet those needs. So that would be great.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good job, buddy. I thought a professor was up there. I realized it was a kid from my neighborhood, I'm like, wow!
There you go. Staying true.
So at this time, we're going to ask Jim Riley to come up and have a seat. I hear congratulations are in order today. He received his doctorate today, so busy day for him. Congratulations.
So this is a great day. After a comprehensive interview process containing teachers, parents, administration, and school committee members, I am bringing Dr. James Riley forward to the committee as my choice for position of Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources. Dr. Riley has been the principal of early childhood for the past 10 years. He has partnered with multiple stakeholders to ensure the growth and stability of student success. And as an educational leader, he has diversified his skills and training to promote Leominster Public Schools. Dr. Riley's commitment to strengthen the human capital of our district drives me to support his candidacy. I look forward to working with him and cultivating an inspiring culture for all our staff and students. I present Dr. Riley.
Great, thank you. I gave Jim a little heads up and thought that if he could just give us sort of, a brief sort of vision of how he plans to work with the superintendent, and particularly being the assistant superintendent over human resources, what does that look like? And then we can just go around and see if anybody has any additional questions for him. So it's kind of free-flowing, so welcome.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd just like to say I'm honored to be here. As a 10-year employee of Leominster Public Schools, I believe deeply in the system and the importance of working with the children of Leominster, who I think are kids who we can really root for and believe in. First off, I just want to acknowledge the good work that has happened in human resources since Superintendent Deacon has taken her position, and the leadership of Jen Mundy in HR, the support of Ann Pickering and Tina Pilgrim. I think we have a far better understanding of the baseline needs of that department, and honestly hope to just continue that good work that has begun. I feel like the Human Resource Department is one of the most important in the school district, in that it speaks to so much of our resources are allocated towards the support of our staff, in both money and the sheer number of employees. And research shows there is no more important lever to improving student achievement and also the student experience than a caring and competent teacher. And so I think our goal, our mission to support teachers and the other important professionals who work with us is just a great one and very important for the district. Looking forward, I think I look at the role of human resources and I'm hoping to help influence it in a few ways. First of all, looking at how we hire, making sure we're hiring staff with a diverse skill set, in that, whenever possible, people who may have 2 licenses or are competent working with our English learners. I'd also like to look at the diversity of our staff and making sure it mirrors our student population, which is something I think it would be unique for us to do in Leominster, and something we perhaps haven't spent as much time doing. Would like to try to do that by using both existing pipelines, such as with Fitchburg State University, and also looking to identify new ones as we move forward. Beyond hiring new teachers, though, I do feel like it's truly important that we support our current staff. I'm hoping that, much like myself in my time in Leominster, that employees feel fulfilled and supported in pursuing their careers, that they are exposed to alternative pathways if they want to move up or take new positions in the district, or stay where they are but feel like they are continually improving and evolving in their skill set. As far as being assistant superintendent, if I'm given that privilege, I would say a few things. I believe in the power of education. I believe there's no more important entity in a child's life to pursuing their dreams than education, which gives them access to whatever they want to do. I believe in the kids of Leominster, and I believe they're kids who are worth rooting for. And honestly, I believe in the superintendent, and I feel like what she's done already to improve this district and what I know she will continue to do is something that I believe in and would like to commit to moving forward.
Great, thank you very much. Go around. Ron, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I've seen Jim in action. I look forward to working with him. Having seen him in action, I look forward very much. I have full confidence.
Thank you. How about you, Cody?
Okay.
Sue?
Jim, I'm very excited, and being on the interview committee, you hit it out of the park. So, very excited.
Nona?
I agree with Sue, being on the interview committee. It was a pleasure to interview you. You were great. I look forward, I'm hoping the committee approves you, and I look forward to working with you.
Congratulations, double congratulations. You know what, I honestly say since the day you worked for us, never one complaint about your school, about you, your staff, and so it's much more than an interview or much more about what you say you're going to do and much more about what you're going to do, and I think you've already proven that
you say you're going to do something, you actually do it. That's the best way to be critiqued, is based on your performance. The only one thing I'd ask, and you're not going to have to answer it now, but be thinking, one thing I'd like to see as a member of the school committee and as mayor is, you know, sometimes I hear things about our school system and it just makes me cringe when I think of where we've been and where we are now and how far and how long it's taken to sort of dig ourselves out from overcrowding and leaky roofs and buildings. And I hear things and I'm like, that's the wrong image you want to sort of portray. And that's based on what we do as the leaders of the city, is to kind of portray that positive image. You've done a great job. You have older buildings built in the late 1800s, yet all the parents love the building. They love the teachers and everything. So you'll be able to cultivate that environment and create a really good image for the students that you've directed. So anything you want to say, and I want to put you in a difficult spot, but that's one of the things I'm interested in when hiring an assistant superintendent is, what are your thoughts about that? Because the continuation of this in a very good system, say it's not a good system and the morale is low, it's just not good, because you know, there are people moving in that hear this and they're like, you know, if I own the restaurant, I wouldn't tell people I have, you know, I wouldn't say, well, I have bad food, don't come to my restaurant. So that's my only comment. Congratulations, I know you work hard, you have kids, so you got to run the system, you have kids and a family, and you want to get your doctor's degree. That alone tells me that, you know, you're serious and you're passionate about what you do, and you're passionate about the work that, you know, line work that you chose. So you certainly didn't have this handed to you. You worked hard for it. So congratulations. Good job. Yeah.
Mike?
I think what I'm hearing from the rest of you speaks for itself. So, no questions for me.
And I wanted to also extend, you know, I was on the interview committee as well. You were very impressive. We're thrilled that you're sitting here before us. And you know, I certainly appreciate all your work you've done thus far on behalf of our students and our school community. And I look forward to that continuing in your new position. So at this time, would someone like to make a motion?
To appoint Jim Miley as our
Second.
assistant superintendent.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, congratulations. Yes, I think we're all thrilled. So we're up to creating a very solid team. So that's wonderful. All right, so moving on, we have the Transportation Task Force presentation.
So that's slightly overblown. The Transportation Task Force has met a couple of times. In that vein,
Thank you.
this is just the, all I've done is taken the sheet with the numbers for transportation on it that we already had and cleaned it up slightly. My typos about the year are fixed. And we have the actual totals for transportation. The Transportation Task Force was unanimous that they wanted me to pass on that they all were in favor of the city fully funding transportation. And they wanted me to make clear that there are three sources of funding for transportation: the city appropriation, which is the lion's share, the McKinney-Vento money, which is less than $100,000, and the transportation fee is also less than $100,000. So I believe we're discussing this later on the agenda. Is that correct? We have to vote at some
As an
point.
action item.
As an action item.
Does anybody have any questions or anything for Mike? I do know that there's quite a few people on the transportation task force, and you have spearheaded it, put a lot of time and energy and effort into it. So I do appreciate your work as well as everyone else on the committee. It's not something that's very easy. People are very passionate about getting their children to school and wanting quality service for across the city capital, and that's not an easy task to do. So I appreciate it. Okay. Well, if no questions, we'll.
I just have one comment.
Sure.
Somewhere along the line, when we used to have discussions on transportation, It was, the school committee decides on the level of service that it wants to provide the system, and it decides on how much money it wants to spend from whatever funding sources are available. Somewhere along the line, that transferred to, and I hear this all the time, and I'm not sure when this sort of happened, but now it's the city is responsible for transportation, and the city is responsible for funding transportation. The reality is the school committee is responsible for transportation, and the school committee is responsible for funding at what level it decides. And so what's different is, and it's sort of somewhere along the change, all that's happened is it doesn't count towards net school spending. And so nothing's changed except for people's interpretations. So the only thing that's correct is that it doesn't count towards net school spending. We as the committee are responsible and charged for setting the level of transportation that we would like to do based on the funding sources that we have. Not, this is a separate item. It's right here. It has nothing to do with us. We put an amount on it, and that's the city's responsibility, when in fact the statute says the school committee is responsible for setting transportation.
Right, but I think we did, as a school committee, and we haven't changed it, determined the level of transportation service. We haven't changed it from what we've been offering for, I think ever since I have been on this committee. We've been very, I guess maybe lucky, in lots of respects, to offer the service that we do, because it is difficult for, we don't have public transportation like other school districts do, that can get kids here. We have a very high working, two-parent working, one single-parent working families, so it's difficult for them to necessarily get their students here. We don't have sidewalks in a lot of neighborhoods that would make it safe for them to walk to school. And safety has always been something that's been paramount for our school committee. So I think, we've made decisions, and we've talked about the transportation task force certainly last year, but again this year, that we needed to, and the will of sort of the committee, and certainly if anybody wants to correct me if I'm wrong, was to continue sort of level transportation service that we've been providing. And Mike, I don't know if you have other comments to what I'm saying.
Is that your wallet that you dropped? This is still 20s in it.
So it is certainly true that the school committee sets the level of service, but the school committee does not have independent funds to pay for that. We get a city appropriation, we get McKinney-Vento, and we get our busing fees. So whatever level of service we choose, we have to ask the city to appropriate that.
Well, it's part of the budget. It's part of the budget.
That's true, right? But it's not part of net school spending. We can't take money. We can't
State
take
the
money
beginning.
from Chapter 70 to pay for busing. We can't take the local.
But you moved
the
$1 million.
appropriation.
You moved $1 million from what we used to get reimbursed Medicaid, Medicare. You moved that. You moved that.
Yes.
So you created $1 million shortage in transportation.
No, we moved.
Hold on,
Well,
here we go.
okay, in transportation.
I'm saying this on the record. I'm not going to argue with anybody.
All right.
You took $1 million from here, and you slid it over to here.
From the Medicaid reimbursement money.
Hold on.
Well,
Just to
I have
clarify what it
four,
is.
actually.
Okay.
So I will respond to that. Yes, we asked to put the Medicaid reimbursement to pay for what it actually reimburses. That is $1 million that we used to put for transportation, that we've asked to put for what it actually pays for. It didn't create $1 million shortage, though. It only changed transportation. We asked $1 million less on the general fund side, because those Medicaid reimbursed expenses are going to be paid for by that. The intent was simply, it doesn't change the total, it simply goes where it's meant to go. I would point out, every bus we take out of service is another 100 cars on the road in the morning and another 100 cars on the road in the afternoon. Traffic is bad enough in Leominster as it is. It's far more efficient to transport that many people by buses than by traditional cars. So I think an argument can be made that even though it's for the schools, that transportation is a public service. It does good for the city. The city can choose to fund it at the, I mean, it's not up to us what level we fund it, we can only ask.
Okay, that's not correct, because there are other additional funding. These school choose money to fund transportation. It's acceptable by DESI, they don't like to see it, but they do. All I want to say on the record is, it's the responsibility of the school committee to set the level of service. It's also the responsibility of the school department to decide, priority-wise, how much of a priority transportation is. I'm not disagreeing with the level of service. I think you're right. I agree with you. I just want to make sure everybody understands that, because I've been part of so many conversations over the years where people are like, no, that's the city's responsibility. I've heard it over and over and over. We're all one big team here, but I just want to make sure people understand. There's $1 million less in transportation. We got reimbursed from the federal government. That money was allocated every year, which some cities don't do. We put that towards transportation. There's $1 million less there this year. I just want to make sure I'm on the record saying that. I think you've done a wonderful job. I understand transportation and sidewalks and kids and safety. Got all that part. Just want to make sure I'm on the record. That's all.
Ron and then Nona?
I feel like the character in the movie Cool Hand Luke. What we have is the lunatic. The money from Medicare and Medicaid has all the kids, is all directed for the kids. And in my little neck of the woods, my little mind, that money should be put into the classes, not for transportation. Yes, you're right, there are some cities that don't take Medicare, Medicaid, and use it for the kids, they use it for transportation. And there was someone saying they should be shamed. Shaming never worked. As I said before, the Puritans tried it and it didn't work. It is the responsibility of the city. It is the responsibility of the city, and I'll repeat it again, it is the responsibility of the city to provide transportation for the kids. If in your heart you don't want the city to finance the transportation for the kids, then you have to say it, and you have to allow for the side effects of that. No cost for transportation for the kids, less kids going to school, you're going to have a higher dumping out drop. It's as simple as that. It's cut and dry. There's collateral damage. In your heart of hearts, if you don't want the city to fund the transportation of the kids, then you have to say it. You can't just say it's a school committee's responsibility. It's a school committee's responsibility to put the monies for the kids in the classes. Plain and simple. Not on the wheels to turn. No.
Maybe Ron, maybe the Puritans weren't shamed, but they read the law, Ron. And so while you may want to change the interpretation of the law, the statute is pretty clear. That's all. I didn't come here to argue. I just came here to put things on the record that are law, not my interpretation, not my personal feelings, just so that we're all on the same page. That's all.
Nona, you're next.
Well, I'm going to have to agree with those that have spoken on, yes, it is the responsibility of the school committee to come up with bus service. Service means stops you're going to make, that type of thing. It's not funding. Funding should be, transportation funding should be the responsibility of the city. So many communities are paying for transportation outright, not charging the school department, their school departments any. I would hate to see us be forced into a situation that we have to say we're not going to have certain services for let's say high school kids. You will see an increase in the dropout rate because of that, because they will not have a way of getting to school. I would just urge you to consider funding the transportation.
Nona, can I just ask you a question? Does the school department get a budget?
Yes, they get a budget.
Whose decision is to prioritize the budget according to whatever the priorities are?
We are.
That's all I'm trying to say. That's it. I don't want to argue with it. That's all I'm trying to say. It's up to the school committee to decide how it wants to prioritize its budget. That's all. And you're right. It does not count towards next school spending. You're right. That's all I was trying to get out. That's it.
Mike, and then we'll move on.
I'll just say quickly, All I'm saying is we are essentially asking for the same amount of money. We are putting funds to the things they're dedicated to. So rather than asking for an additional $1 million from the city general fund, we're asking for an additional $1 million from the city because we're going to use Medicaid to pay for it. It just seems cleaner and simpler and more transparent. If we have money that reimburses something, that it pays for that thing. If school choice is supposed to pay for services for kids of school choice in, we use it to pay for those things. It doesn't change the total, but I think it's cleaner to put the money where it's supposed to go.
Thank you. So at this time, we're going to move on to the HR monthly report.
We included our monthly report, as we said we would each month. Jen Mundy is here if you have any questions, and she's available after this, should you have any additional thoughts.
Would anybody like to ask any questions of Jen regarding the HR report that we've received?
I did, but on the CTEI presentation, I had asked a couple of months ago to do like a quarterly update on who we're doing work for, because I think it was sort of notable that it was said that, they're working all over the place. We never get a report unless I see them somewhere. So exactly what trade is doing work and who are they working for? What kind of work? I think that's a good thing to communicate to the school. It doesn't have to be elaborate, just a quick list. It doesn't have to say many hours, just so we get an understanding of who they're doing work for.
Who
And
our
what the
community
trade
partners
is.
are?
Sure, whoever we're doing work. So we can thank those people that might, they might be out there taking students into co-op. I'm in 7 businesses a week. Be nice to know, so I always have to ask, do you have any of our students here? Then advocate that they get students to adopt them sort of into the program for them. It's a little bit embarrassing, I should know that, you know.
No problem. Noted, that's a good point. All right,
I mean, just but all of us should.
Yeah, right, no, absolutely.
So when
No,
you
it's
run
a
into
good point.
somebody, you can thank them or advocate for more
Or
co-op.
give them some business or
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
So, yep, very good point, Nate, thank you. We're going to move on to subcommittee reports. The policy subcommittee did not have a quorum tonight. Ron and I did go over with Dr. Lord the high school handbook. There were a few corrections that we tweaked, and there were no changes to the middle school handbook. So we're comfortable with that. And we do need to, I hope that everybody has looked it over. We need to get them printed in the near future, so we need to really take a vote on it. So the things that were it was really more a couple of, I think in 3 places, some wording. There was nothing of substance, like substantial changes in the high school handbook. Chris, I know you took notes. Do you mind reporting back?
Yeah, on the high school one, page 21, we changed, it said, teachers may submit for review to the administrative disciplinary workflow. We didn't know what that was. It's something to do with Aspen, so we took workflow off and put protocol instead. The next one was on page 53. Students who compromise school safety by blocking open a locked door. We changed to students who compromise school safety by propping open a locked door or opening an outside door. On page 65, the work permits will be done at the high school all year long instead of just in the regular school year and then at the PIC center in the summer. And that's how it used to be before. And we're going to check on the fees for driver's education, and he's going to send me a list of updated clubs.
Right. So what's the changed to the work permit?
They're
It's
all gonna be
staying the
done at the
same
high
at the
school
high
all year
school.
long.
It's staying the
It
same.
stays the same,
As what's written here,
Yeah.
not at the
Not at the
Pixar.
Pixar, correct, okay.
Correct.
and I think that was it. And I'll change the dates and the names and the calendar and everything else.
Yeah, with the sports teams, we said 50 sports teams, and
Oh, yeah, there's one.
then it listed varsity, JV, freshman, and then we added combined. So we don't have 50 different sports, but we have a combination of 50 teams if you include freshman, varsity, and JV. So that's it. So with those changes noted, can I have a motion to approve both the high school handbook and the middle school handbook?
Motion.
Okay, Ron, do you want to
I'll second it.
Second it? All those, anybody have any questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Excellent, thank you very much. Finance Subcommittee, Mike?
Finance Subcommittee met last Tuesday and again tonight. It was a bit of a challenge, especially last Tuesday, because they're still dealing with technology issues from ransomware. Although those are getting resolved, we're getting back on track. In particular, we have discussed things that are coming up on our action items. The transportation budget that we just talked about, an issue with fee rate. We have a long list of transfers that we're requesting approval for. And finally, I think it's important to say that at this point, we are, administration and finance are confident that we will finish this year without any additional appropriation requests from the city. Okay, despite the challenges we had this year, we're going to come in on budget. And we are furthermore confident, it's a unanimous opinion of the Finance Committee, that if the budget is funded as we requested, that we will be able to do the same thing next year, not need additional appropriations. So I don't know if you want to discuss those
exciting.
things now or
Sure, why don't we?
later.
Let's run it.
All right, well, I guess, yeah, let's see. What do we got here? So transportation budget. We have that in front of us. Finance Subcommittee recommends approving the transportation budget. Just inside here.
Do you want my sheet? Mike? Is that
So, so actually, there are two items we need to do. One is the total transportation, which is to maintain the level of service that we've traditionally done, K through 12. And that's $4,925,437.50. We also have, as a separate item, which always seems to get combined, but I guess it's technically separate, is a request for $29,076.63 for the crossing guards.
Okay, so you're making a motion. Do I have a second? Thank you, Cody. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Note that there's one opposed.
And let me go on record as just stating that in the past, that we've taken in the reimbursement money, it goes back to the city, and then the city appropriates it. The school committee, this is the first time that they've changed that. And I'm not even sure whether they get the authority to do that, but they've reached into an area of funding that they have no statutory legal right to as a funding source to fund this. So you're voting on something that you have no funding source for. That doesn't mean that the money isn't going to be allocated, but you don't. That's my objection.
Thank you. Next on the transfers.
All right, you have in your packet, I believe,
Yes,
a long
we do.
list of requested transfers. The first page is transfers
Bless you.
transfers from three different expense line items into 1450, which is technology. These total $159,323.16. These are doing this so that we have the money in that line available to paid for technology and purchases and upgrades we need to improve security, to avoid getting hit by ransomware again. It's one of those ones. The second is the next 5 pages. These are transfers. There are several different lines within salaries and expenses that have some small amounts.
Before you go there, it looks like there was one transfer around transportation.
Yes, that's the last one. That's
Okay,
the
it
last
was in the
one.
next page, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, so this is definitely requires a school committee vote because we're trying to go from salaries to expenses. We're taking unused money and putting it into pay for out-of-district tuitions and payments to collaboratives. That transfer total is $465,940. The last page is the transportation.
Hold on, 460, I think you should spell out the actual number.
$465,940.
Okay.
The last page is the transportation one. The sheet of paper you have says $810,173. That's actually incorrect because it doesn't. We have $56,000 in transportation fees that will be used for transportation. So the actual number should be $754,173 that we are providing transfer to pay the remaining balance on transportation.
So you're making a motion for
Make a
those
motion that we
transfers?
accept these transfers.
I'll second. Do we have any questions, comments, discussions? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? All approval by everyone? All right, any warrants today, Mike?
No warrants, there'll be warrants at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
The last issue, do you want to talk about E-rate now, or?
Sure. Since you're on a roll?
Okay. E-rate is a program in which schools, such as us, are reimbursed 80% of the cost of our internet service. That amounts to about $260,000 this year or $270,000 next year. You can take this in one of 2 ways. It used to be that you had to pay up front and then fill out paperwork to get reimbursed, similar to what we would have. A few years ago, it was changed. You now have the option to have your internet service provider do the paperwork and simply provide you the E-rate pays them directly, so you only pay the 20%. That's what we have been doing. However, the city has objected and not paid our bill this year for our 20%. So we have 2 things. We have to fill out the paperwork for next year before June 30th. So we have, from finance, we have 2 issues. One would be to request that the mayor approve the use of the discount for FY19. That would require him approving the contract because discount makes more sense to us. Paying up front, and you run the risk of not, if the feds don't like the way you filled out the paperwork, then you don't get the reimbursement. It also means we have to pay our staff to fill out the paperwork, but right now that's done for us automatically, so it adds costs. So it's the feeling of finance we'd like to continue using the discount. So we're hoping that the school committee will request it from the mayor.
Is there a rationale, I'm presuming you've had a conversation with the city around this? Is there a rationale why it wouldn't be to everybody's advantage to have someone else do all the work and just give us the money back as opposed to, and then, they'll paying and all we're doing is paying the 20%? Is there any reason why that didn't work out?
Question that makes sense to me.
I'm trying to figure out what the
The auditor,
issue is.
the auditor responded. The auditor's job is to watch these things, transfers, budget transfers, where money goes. The auditor, that's his job to audit, and he had no problem with it. He explained his objection to it. He and then you should give him a call and make sure to keep it on. So
Which audit are you talking about?
the comptroller is the auditor for the city.
He hasn't provided the information, he just said that he didn't want to do it, so.
Did you talk to him?
Glenn talked to
No,
him?
did
Well,
you talk
I
to him?
have not.
Okay, you should make a call into him and ask him. The other thing is, I think we should have, we don't send enough things to legal. We just sort of give our opinions about things. We should send this off to legal to make sure that that is the proper legal way to do things, rather than just to
Our
take
internet
this.
service provider is the largest service provider for academic institutions in the state. We have 80 clients, all 80 take this. And there's no question.
I don't doubt that, but I just want to make sure we're, okay? There are plenty of cities that do a lot of things, and school departments that aren't exactly the right way, but they just do them, and they don't get caught at it, and I guess it's okay. But I just think this is a legal document, and there should be somebody looking at our legal documents before we sign them. Anytime we sign a legal document, somebody legal should be looking at that to make sure that we're interpreting this correct. I'm not an attorney for the city. You know what I'm saying? I think it's just protection for us. Very inexpensive way.
So-
I don't discount. I'm not suggesting you're not correct at all. Okay, I believe you're as thorough as can be. But I just think we pass a lot of things here without the eyes of legal. And I'm not trying to cost us any more money than possible, but we pass a lot of legal things here.
So really, it's just the contract that you want our attorneys to look over.
Right.
So we certainly can have Mark do that.
And make sure they're consistent with the auditor for the city, so that when he looks at these documents, everything lines up, because that's his job, is to periodically look at things to make sure that they're done appropriately, and they have the proper signatures, and if there's bidding required, or whatever it might be, legal documents, that's what his job is. And he's rejected that.
Go ahead, Sid.
Okay, so, Dean, there's no difference between eBay and Medicare reimbursement.
Right.
We hire a company, they determine what our Medicare reimbursement is going to be, and eBay is pretty much the same thing. I don't see any reason to go to legal to get an opinion of this. It sounds like we as a elected body are requesting that this be done. I mean, why would we want to hold ourselves out and pay money up front?
Which we don't have to.
Which we don't have to and don't have. It doesn't make sense. You know, and internet costs are pretty expensive, so 20% discount is significant. So I guess, I think, I know the administration has spoken to John, and I think we're looking for your help now because you're you're on the school committee, but also, but also more importantly, and maybe it's just your signature that's missing from the, ability for us to collect the E-rate discount. So, I feel pretty strong about that. I don't want to personally waste money on legal, because I don't think it's a legal thing.
My point is, any legal document we sign here,
Right.
we're not attorneys. I'm hearing one side of the story, or one side of an understanding here on A versus B. We sign a legal document, we sign on the dotted line. And we're responsible for it. We seldom use the services of legal.
I think we've been using legal probably quite a bit.
Yeah, we transferred money into legal this year.
Sure,
so
right.
Right, but
I'm
not,
using it quite a lot.
not for looking over our legal documents, is what I'm saying. That's all, there's a big difference.
For this year, we
Right,
budgeted
this is-
based on an 80% discount for us paying 20. We've been paying the 20, or trying to. There isn't money in the budget to pay all of it. There's
Right,
money to pay
the 20%, that's what we budgeted for this
We
past year.
requested in last year's budget.
And the auditor
based on
bounced it
the-
back and said something's wrong.
Well, not the comptroller, not the auditor. I mean,
He is
we-
the auditor for the city.
But
That's
we
his job.
weren't audited because there was.
He's the
entities
auditor for the
choosing.
city, and he bounced it back and said something's wrong. We can't make up rules. We have this tendency to think that because we say something's right and it's wrong, that we can just beat up the person that said it's wrong. We can't.
So,
He
but,
said there's something wrong.
all right, so, but we have not heard that there's anything wrong. We've heard that he's chosen not to do it this way.
He doesn't just choose to.
So that's something that we need clarification
That's correct.
of, and so, Mike, you can see if you can get a different explanation.
Right.
In the meantime, I think that, we can ask Mark to take a quick look at it to make sure that our interests are covered.
He's a labor lawyer. He's a labor attorney.
It's all around contracts.
No, he's a labor attorney for that firm. Not a contract attorney.
Well, we can talk later about who would be the
Right,
best
they'll decide who to send.
legal person. Well, we'll decide, since we'll be paying the bill. Who would be taking?
Well, I don't want it to go to a labor attorney. It needs to go to a contract attorney. All of our, anything that we're signing needs to start going to contract attorneys. Somebody that's.
So it needs to go to Copeland and Page.
No, they have other people in their firm that can do this stuff. I'm just saying, these are just quick glances, but you should have their
But
secretary.
I'm just afraid that if we delay the process for the amount of money this year that we
We're not gonna be able to pay.
anticipated from months ago, that we won't have the money, which, what does that mean? That means a cut someplace, a cut to cover it.
For this year?
Yes.
Bill has not been paid.
Bill has not
Bill
been paid
has
this
not
year.
been paid this
Okay,
year.
then have your attorney, it's gonna take them 5 minutes to look at this thing. Tell us which ones we should be signing. You can pass this based on, you can pass this conditionally that the attorney agrees with us and we sign off on it. So you're passing this conditional upon the attorney looking at this and agreeing that this is exactly what, this is the proper mechanism for.
What will you need
for
from,
taking
you
funds.
need an email
He'll-
from the attorney?
He'll send us
to
off
you?
a letter and email just saying, I looked at the document, this is what it's real brief, and my recommendation would be to sign A versus B. Then you always have a letter in the file from somebody, somebody comes back later and say you did it wrong. Now you have a letter in the file that says, no, you did it right.
And
did
will you, if, I'm sorry, one last question. If that happens for this year's money, will that carry over to next year and future years?
I think we've got to get an understanding of why he bounced it back. I thought the superintendent, didn't you talk with him?
I did.
And what's the reason?
At this point, it seems like it's just a procedural.
Okay, well, there you go. I mean, you
Procedural
didn't follow the right
preference.
procedure.
No,
Preference.
preference, it's a preference.
He chooses to have us put in an appropriation,
Mhm.
pay it up front, and then when the discount comes back, he will reallocate the money back.
Okay.
So
But
it's
that
about us,
doesn't make any sense,
it's about us just fronting the money.
which we don't have.
Okay.
All right, Glenn, did you have something just briefly to add to the
Just to
discussion?
briefly touch upon that last comment. Thank you. The FY19 budget request for broadband services was based on preceding the 8% discount as the district has done the past 2 years. If we're to use the reimbursement method as opposed to taking the discount, we will need to ask for an additional $271,677 in our budget proposal to the city council in May. Ultimately, that money would then be reimbursed at some point in time, but as filling out reimbursement paperwork, and the check would then be cut to go back to the city.
It just seems like a laborious.
So, and we do have to make a decision. We have the application, the E-rate application was submitted. We paid the consultant, Clearcom, to submit that application for us. The provider is Addition Networks, as Michael said, the largest provider of broadband services in the Commonwealth Public Institutions. Every one of their clients takes the discount, including us the past few years. So, at some point, perhaps we will submit the contract to the city, we'll have the evaluation done. This has to be done before the budget process ends.
And I think it's confusing because we've been doing it for 2 years, so for there to be an issue this year when it's not been an issue previous
I
years?
wouldn't say that. I think
Okay.
it's not the preference of the city's comptroller to do it this way. But it also ties into the fact that we have not paid our 20% share of services.
Sure.
We have budgeted about $64,000 in FY18 to pay our share, but we can't get that approved for payment. Money's been encumbered, the money is sitting in account. I think it makes sense, we're asking for legal opinion for next year, we ask for legal opinion for the current year.
Yeah, we have to do it
Right,
for both years.
Right, exactly, that's exactly
we
what I was
need to
saying. I
release
sit at
the
too many of
monies.
these meetings where people are telling me things based on their conversations, and I'm like, We're just setting up, every document on the city side is reviewed by legal. Every document. That's why we stay out of trouble. That's why we're never in trouble.
And I think based on this, given the Walshman suggested to us that we have large contracts such as this, we provide to the mayor in advance before anything is signed. I think that's another issue that the comptroller had, is that prior agreements, the school administrators felt were legal, as based on our consultant's recommendation, that we should put these before the mayor. Just make sure that we do it correctly.
And we also make sure we double check, just to make sure we don't want any trouble. It's a lot cheaper to sort of check first.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
So we'll follow through with that, Superintendent. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to,
Just one small question. Is there a drop dead date on this?
June 30th for next year.
so we need to get moving.
We have to make a decision of which way we're going. And of course, if we don't take the discount, then we have to ask for additional funding in our budget request for next year. So
Can't wait till
really
June 30th
sooner than
for
that,
that.
because you must be making your budget presentation soon.
Very soon.
So wait, I just have one question. So we've been getting billed discount, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we as auditors sign off on the bills,
Yep.
right? So how can we arbitrarily owe that money if we've been paying a net all along? I'm not understanding that. I mean, we pay a bill, it's net of a discount, so are we overpaying the bill?
No, it hasn't been
No,
paid.
he hasn't paid it.
Well, no, but you get billed monthly, right?
Right.
Or, so your monthly bills are,
Monthly bill is net of the 80% discount. We are
oh, we
billed for
haven't
the
paid any of
20%.
them? No.
They have not been paid for.
So even though we've been approving it,
We had internet service all year, but we haven't paid the 80% for E-rate has already been paid. Our 20% has
Oh,
not.
but we didn't pay anything.
That's right. We've approved, we've gone through the process, we've
Right.
approved the warrants, they have not been processed, but
The actual requisitions pay our share, our 20% share of hearing services has not, it's not gone past the city's purchasing agent. It's still sitting in queue because the comptroller disagrees that we've done it correctly. There are also other services related to hearing, such as the consultant services, put the applications together, that have not been paid for the last 3 years. They're all sitting in a queue. And the recommendation by me will address that issue with the appropriate legal opinion. So it looks like we're making headway to resolve the issue.
thank you, Glenn. All right, approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes?
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any omissions, errors, comments? Nona?
I think it's important that, as I'm looking it over, I'm coming to some of the votes we took, and other than the budget one, I'm looking at some of the others towards the end of the evening, and it says 8-0. I think it's important that we note if someone leaves the meeting.
Like the mailman?
Yes. And things, or, I mean, whether it's sometime that I might leave a meeting. I think it's important that we note that in the minutes.
Okay.
So that we can clarify the
It wasn't
number
like
of votes.
somebody dissented, they just
Right.
weren't present.
Okay.
Right.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move down to the rest of our action items. We've done the transportation. We need approval of a field trip.
We have an overnight for Skills USA, the national championship.
It's exciting.
Motion to approve the field trip. Wish I was going with them.
Excellent.
I never get invited to the field trips planned.
Okay, seconded by
Neither do I.
Ron. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, approved. We voted for the assistant superintendent already. Now, this is one of our biggest things that students are at the edge of their seat. The vote on the last day of school. Would someone like to make a motion to have it a half day?
I recommend that this Friday be the last day.
I'm with you. I think everybody would like that, but we can't quite do that.
I'll make a motion that the last day of school be a half day.
Okay, and that exact date is, Superintendent?
June 22nd.
Okay, June
Being ready.
22nd, half a day of school. Ron, will second it? All those in favor? Congratulations to everyone who gets to get out early. We voted on the transfers, and for the E-rate, we actually did not officially make a
You can
vote.
vote conditionally
But
upon.
why don't we do that?
That's all.
Would you like to make that?
No, but somebody can make it.
Would you like to make that?
I mean, I haven't, I think what we need is something in writing from the comptroller saying why. There are things all day long that he has to go through and find something that he's in disagreement with. You gotta get him to sign off, because if he doesn't sign off, you can have all the legal opinions you want, but you've got to justify them.
Let's let Michael do it, since, and then you can second it, he's the chair.
So, I'm not quite sure how to word this. So I guess we discussed two things, getting clarification, and then a motion to approve continuing to use the E-rate discount pending the
Legal review.
And a response from the comptroller, which I think will be,
I'll second.
I'm sure they'll call.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're on to old and new business. Does anybody have anything they would like to bring up?
Just like to, in advance, thank the Chamber of Commerce and all of those who contributed to the scholarship program. I just came from the Knights of Columbus, them as well. I don't know that we always give them the recognition. What happens is, it always happens later, and then obviously there's going to be the awards assembly. And on behalf of the whole school committee and the city, I'd like to thank all of those people. There's so many different awards and scholarships, and they are so needed today with the high cost of education. And just want to thank everybody, those nonprofits that helped to organize those, and each of the contributors.
Yeah, it's wonderful that we have so much support for our students and their further academic and career endeavors. All right.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that Sue and I went to the CTEI advisory dinner and award ceremony, and it was wonderful. I was so impressed that there were a couple of girls that got awards for shops that I wouldn't have thought young ladies would be involved in, such as HVAC and auto mechanics, auto shop. Really impressed with that, and congratulations to them. And also, I attended the National Honor Society induction ceremony on Thursday night. That was really nice and very well done, and congratulations to those students who became members of that. And if you haven't already responded to going to graduation, the deadline was supposedly this past Monday, but I'm sure you can still call and reserve a seat for graduation for those of us who can go with that.
Great. Anybody else have anything for old or new business? Okay, so at this point, can I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session under Chapter 39 of the Massachusetts General Laws for discussion on contract negotiations, specifically administration, and we will not be returning.
This is a voice call vote. Ron?
Yay.
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 Okay, thank you, public, for joining us, and we'll see you next time.